everybody. Welcome to the episode 5 review and discussion of The Last of Us on HBO. Well, I don't know what to say. Drat them for putting this on a Friday. I understand you don't want it to go up against the Super Bowl, but honestly, I feel like the crossover is substantial, but not. The Venn diagram is not a perfect circle. Put it on Sunday. Sunday is my day to watch The Last of Us, and excuse me, I'm still a little cold. I got a little cold here, but Sunday is my day to watch The Last of Us and feel feelings. Friday is my day to watch wrestling and feel nothing. So I was not ready to watch this show. I wasn't ready to process it. It got me really good. Even though I knew it was happening, even though I knew it was coming, even though I knew the fate of our characters, still didn't change anything. Oh boy. Just want to make sure everyone's here and we're watching this together. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. What do you want to talk about? I love this show. This episode I think is the best so far. Lord Kev in the chat agrees. But the show itself is playing a very they're walking a tightrope, and they're doing so well with it. All of the departures from the game are warranted, I think, and all of the the ways that they say, okay, we're going to do what's in the game. We're going to do what's in the game, and we're going to do it better. We're going to do it more. Transplanting it from Pittsburgh to Kansas City, I don't think hurt it in the least. There were ways that they switched around the timeline a little bit, but I'm fine with it. Stellar Justin Lopez said that it's probably the saddest ending of TV I've ever seen in my life. When I played through the game on the stream for this channel, I only knew the very barest minimum of stuff about The Last of Us Part 1. I had no idea what was going to happen with Henry and Sam. So when that scene happened in the game, I had to just shut off the stream for a bit. I had to hold on one second. I had to bring up this screen. That's the screen that I bring up when apparently I have to run to the bathroom in the middle of a 3-hour stream, or when I've been crying so hard because shit got too real. The making of Sam now deaf does so much for his relationship with Henry, and making him not just deaf but also 8, um, it changes immediately what the relationship between Sam and Ellie is, because in the game Sam is, I think, 12 and Ellie's 14. So he's trying to be grown a little bit and maybe prove that he's cool to a slightly older girl, like you would if you were a 6th grader and there was this 8th grade girl that you kind of liked, you had a crush on, right? It's a perfectly viable thing for them to do in the game, and it allows them to like kind of just bond. I mean, nothing's overtly sexual, but you can tell there's like, he kind of wants this girl to think he's cool in the game. Totally works for some of the stuff they do in the game. This is so different because it allows her at 14, because 8 isn't that long ago in your child's brain, and allows you to like revert, and kind of like be able to play stuff you wouldn't normally play with an 8-year-old. I think that even if you're not a sibling, I think that you can kind of immediately, as a 14-year-old, relate to, remember what it was like being 8 and play along and relate to that in that other way. I think it was so great that they did that, and her trying to learn ASL, American Sign Language, and the device of like I like, they could have done anything. They could have had little note cards or a notepad that you write things down, then flip over the notepad. But the little peel of the cellophane away from the ink pad thing, like that was a major deal. Like, I know my brother and I had those things. We used to draw on them and then play Pictionary basically with them in the car before tablets and stuff. We would like draw something, you'd guess what it was, and then you peel it back and then do it again and pass it back and forth. So that, using that as a method for how they communicate was really cool. Yeah, the carbon paper, perfect. That's, there you go, Michael. Damn it, that's right. Rachel Brechheisen says, I haven't seen an episode yet, but I won't miss an Alex review. The game was so good. Can't wait to actually start watching this when I get HBO in a couple weeks. Man, it's so worth it. Even if you played the game, it's so great to see it come through in a different light. I'm going to try and hit this as chronologically as I can to save the big thing for the end, but I like the little, like, finding out that when Joel and Ellie ride into town, it's been 10 days since Fedra fell. 10 days. I thought we were like maybe a month, 6 weeks out. 10 days. Like, what a coinkydink, huh? That they happened to roll through right after that. The little showing of like, now fuck Fedra, Fedra's gone. Now we're going to be just as bad as Fedra was, but it's okay because we're doing it to Fedra. I mean, that's every paramilitary coup in the world, right? There's a horrible dictator that's running things, and then almost invariably the resistance that takes over and ousts the dictator is terrible. Just, it does not operate fairly in any way. It feels like the idea what Henry talks about, how they raped, tortured, and murdered people for 20 years. Well, Michael, damn it, it says the group seemed to form for only 10 days. They were a fully formed and operational resistance, but they finally took over 10 days ago. I think they were sending out patrols and doing stuff. They probably had a whole ranking system, who was in charge of squads and stuff. They probably had all that going, and it was fully operational for months, if not years, leading up to the fall of Fedra in Kansas City. So they just, now that they're in charge, they can do all of that out in the open instead of like sending out a 4-man squad to take out this Fedra unit over here in the dark of night. They've, they figured out what they're doing. They figured out what they're doing. Kathleen's brother had been hitting up that for years. You get the impression. It's very true. I really love the shades of gray that Druckmann and Mazin are I think that's how you pronounce Craig Mazin. Mazin. I'm going to say Craig Mazin. Mazin and Druckmann are painting all the characters with. The idea of, you totally understand where Kathleen is coming from. She wants Henry specifically because Henry specifically ratted out her brother, who was the leader of the resistance. She wants Henry dead because he gave up her brother, who was probably executed publicly. Henry only gave up that great leader, her brother, because otherwise his brother would die. Apparently he had leukemia, Sam did, and the medicine that could treat and maybe cure him was withheld unless he gave up Michael, the leader of the resistance. It's an impossible choice to make for both of them. They're both right. They're both right. So, that's hard for us as an audience because we want to pick somebody to root for. I think they did a really great job by giving Kathleen motives that you can agree with, can understand where she's coming from. You can empathize with Kathleen. However, her modus operandi, the way that she gets shit done, is maybe a bit too harsh. She even says that, like in this awesome scene in her childhood bedroom, she was talking about how much she loved her brother and how her brother would look out for her all the time, and her brother would always forgive everybody. And her brother asked her to forgive Henry for giving him up. And no, forgiveness got him murdered. Got him tried, convicted, murdered. She behaves to these collaborators, people, like she says, for fucking apples. I feel like medicine, I understand, like if you need medicine and Fedra is withholding medicine unless you give them information. If you need medicine for your child, even for yourself, I get it. It's not Sudafed they're withholding. This would be medicine that you need to survive. I understand why these people did what they did. They backed the wrong side. The side that ended up losing. But I understand why they did what they did. But Kathleen has no time for that. She has them all just executed. Tried, convicted, thrown in jail for a few years. No, that's bullshit. She's lying to them. uh, she finally shows her true colors later in the episode. I don't think there's any redeeming her at all. But you understand, the most important person to her in the world was given up to be executed by this guy, by Henry. So Henry is the most important person in the world to kill. That makes sense. I like that they showed Henry had a relationship with the doctor who we saw Kathleen kill at the beginning of last episode. His plans seemed to work perfectly. There were no infected in those tunnels, those maintenance tunnels. They cleared them out 3 years ago, they said. So they went to the maintenance tunnels with Ellie and Joel. I like the scenes between Ellie and Joel were all really great. Ellie, Joel, and Henry. But man, did they have to show us the school? If you remember the game, there's the sewers they ended up walking through on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, where you find a room where a couple of them had to hide and then got killed. I was worried they were going to show that. They didn't. But they did show the exact drawing. There's exact copy of a drawing that you can find in Last of Us, the game, where some kid had drawn two people with rifles and says, "Our protectors." I forget what the first guy's name is. And then the other one is Ish. And Ish is from the game. There's a whole sub-story of Ish notes that you find that tell the whole story of Ish and what happened to Ish. They never actually yeah, it's so great. It was a favorite part in the game. Just to tell that story on a TV show. Yep. Just a little tiny part of it. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole game too. Where you find the story of Ish, for people who haven't played the game, you find a boat, like a tugboat type of thing, like having been, scuttled on the banks of the river in Pittsburgh, and there's a note in there from a guy named Ish who went out on the boat when the thing went crazy, and when he ran out of food, he had no choice but to come back to land. And so once he writes a note saying that, you go into the sewers, you find another note in there that Ish left for somebody that tells the story of Ish going through the sewers, finding other survivors, and then for years, all the survivors lived together underground, and they had rules of they actually show the rules in the show. Do not always keep the doors locked. Do not open the door for anybody who you don't know. No noisy play or shouting. Run to the hiding spot when you hear the alarm. All those notes are prominently displayed on a whiteboard in this daycare type place. And of course, somebody didn't close the door properly, and infected got in and killed everybody. They could just, you're right, they could do a whole episode on Ish. I did not think they would make it out so easily. I thought for sure they'd have to kill at least something. But no. But I love that they still have the sniper scene. Because there's the one thing that happens in when you get out of Pittsburgh and out of the suburbs, you're still being chased by the paramilitary group, the Hunters. And there's a sniper up in a big house at the end of a long street in the game, and they put it in the show too, but they had it happen at night, which is really atmospheric. And I love that it was just an old man. It's an old man, you know, like probably former military, maybe a hunter, like an actual hunter. And they've stationed him in this place with with a rifle and all kinds of ammo just in case anybody comes this way. Um, and Joel sneaks up there and tells him, "Man, all you gotta do, put the gun down, slide it over to me, then wait up here for an hour. Please don't make me kill you." And of course, the guy does. Of course, the guy turns and tries to shoot the gun at Joel, so Joel has to kill him. But then he hears the walkie-talkie, which I thought was I was not prepared for that. Everything that happened here, I was not prepared for. Did not think we were getting that. Um, uh, the walkie-talkie meaning everybody, they're all coming here because they assume it is, and they're right, that it is Henry and Sam and the man who killed Brian and the girl who's traveling with him. And they get there, and Ellie and Sam and Henry have to run, and finally they're hiding, but they're about to be. Henry's at least about to be killed. This is where Kathleen says, "No, we're gonna kill the kids too, because Sam is with you, so Sam needs to die." I don't know about that logic there, Kathleen. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, Brent, that's true. Um, the other seriously cool part about that scene, the unspoken signals, was the stuff between Joel and Ellie in the fight. Um, in it's funny because in Pittsburgh in the game, Joel is gonna go down there and try and stealth a bunch of guys in a courtyard and gives a rifle to Ellie to cover him. And you're supposed to be able to, like, she will follow you wherever you are going, and if somebody gets too close to you, she'll take you out. She'll take them out in the game. So they kind of reversed that and had Ellie going through all this stuff and Joel taking out the people. But before this, the giant snowplow ATV thing that goes into this house and explodes inadvertently brings up all the infected. And there's that moment where they all see the vehicle sink into this just sinkhole. And then there's that moment. And you can hear them. And then they pour out of this hole. And there's all these people here with, like, submachine guns and shit. And there's just too many of them, man. They're moving too fast. You don't have enough bullets. You might be able to keep them back for a while, but at some point you're going to have to reload. You don't have time to reload. So these things are coming everywhere. There's clickers and regular infected. And they're just running everywhere. There's Ellie gets trapped inside like a Suburban, like a GMC Suburban. And there's a child clicker that gets in after her. She has to, like, get out of that thing, but there's a bloater. We get our first bloater, and it's just like, who gave the fungal infection to Brody King? Because that thing was giant and pissed off. It was throwing everybody around, and I feel like a bloater is supposedly just, they say in the game, he's an infected who's been infected for a long time. Well, yeah, but wouldn't he have to have originally been, like, gigantic? like gigantic first before he got infected. Um, yeah, it is all practical. These are all stunt people and people who are in like movement actors. They said they brought in the person to work with the Planet of the Apes actors. And none. It's not CGI. It's all practical. But the bloater coming up and just picking up dudes and throwing them all over the place. And then a lovely little touch. By the way, I meant to mention this last week, but I didn't actually say it out loud. It was in my head. The guy who plays Perry is Jeffrey Pierce, who does the voice of Tommy in the game. And I thought he had a really lovely performance in these two episodes. You could tell he was a military man, no nonsense, but you could tell he had a gentle soul. Like he was very soft spoken. Didn't feel like he was. Just seemed like a nice enough guy who got caught up in the wrong stuff, but knew he had a job to do. So I really loved his performance, but when he tells Kathleen to run, turns around, poor guy's only got like 6 shots left in his AR-15, and what I thought was a wonderful nod to the game, in The Last of Us, when you get attacked by a bloater, there are a few things. There's like a couple of specific little cutscenes that they'll show you if a bloater ever gets a hold of you. One of them is he literally picks you up and choke slams you to death, which they basically did in this thing. And the other one is that the bloater grabs a hold of you, puts one hand here in the mouth, the other one on top of the mouth, and just grabs both into your jaw, and then just goes flip and just rips the top of your face off the bottom of your face. Just tears your head in half. That's one of the things that can happen to you if you get caught by a bloater in the game. And they did that to Perry. Like, Perry went out hard. That was crazy. That was crazy. I love that that they chose that to be the end for Perry, that the bloater did the old head rip in half one. And also, Kathleen tries to stop the everybody from escaping, but she gets attacked and beaten to death and killed by the little child clicker. And then all the gunfire dies out. You notice at the end, you don't hear the gunfire anymore, because everybody who was carrying a gun is dead. And then the swarm turns and just starts running in the direction of Kansas City. Like back out of the suburbs, back the way that everyone came from. So, Kansas City has fallen. R.I.P. Kansas City. Yeah, Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen Troy or Ashley this from a crossover from the games. We haven't seen them play their characters yet, I don't believe. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the game, from the game in the movie as well, in the show. The practical effects have just been so good. It's just so great. And then we get to the scene in the hotel room. This is the and I know by next episode I won't have any reservations about it. So honestly, it doesn't really matter. But I don't know exactly how I feel about. I mean, I guess there's no. It's so weird. It's a major departure, I think, from the game in the way that they're telling the story. Um, in the game, we find out because Sam lifts his pant leg to us after the amazing scene that he has with Ellie, where they talk about what they're scared of. If you become a monster, is it still you inside? Um, Kind of a thing. That what the fact that they found a way to have Sam ask that question. It's so hard in the game, but like with him asking the question via the little carbon paper, it's even worse. Um, but in the game, after that conversation, Ellie leaves the room and he opens up his pant leg, and we can see that he's been bitten, and we know, oh, this is not going to turn out well. But from the episode tonight, he straight up just shows it to Ellie. Um, with all due respect, Brent, I'm not going to listen to the podcast until after the show's all the episodes. I've seen all the episodes because I don't want to. I don't want to think about the show in those terms from the creators until I've watched the whole thing. But thank you for the uh, for the recommendation. I will listen to the podcast when I've seen the entire season. Um, Sam showing the bite to Ellie, and Ellie being like, "That's okay. My blood is medicine." Um, that's okay. My blood is medicine. Feels like something a 6-year-old would say. But then again, I have to remember. I have to remember at 14 and in a Fedra school, I don't know how much science she would understand, but like, my blood is medicine cannot be um cannot that can't be true. I think with any kind of knowledge about the world at all, which again Ellie doesn't really have, you would know that my blood is not medicine. They would have that. There's no way that that would work. The idea that she would cut her own hand, smear her own blood on Sam's wound, and think he'll be okay makes her really dumb. And I don't think of Ellie as really dumb. She's not dumb. She's naive. She's incredibly naive, and also makes a terrible decision to not inform the adults in the room. You know, in the other room there are two adults there who might be able to like tell her, "No, your blood isn't medicine, and we're gonna have to deal with this." I think it's so much cleaner, and doesn't require all of these thoughts that I'm having if Ellie just never knows that Sam is bit. I know, but that her blood is not a vaccination. Her blood is not a treatment for it. Um, so yeah, it's it doesn't it makes her it makes it very sad that she thought it was going to work and it didn't. But I don't understand how she could think it was going to work. I don't know why. Um, I'm gonna say in the ring. I don't know what I said. I'm tired. In the room. Did I say that in the room? Well, Wesley says, I thought Ellie was just trying to calm Sam down rather than actually believing her blood would cure him. And that's fine. That's what I thought she was going to do before she left the room and told Joel. Hey, Sam got bit. What do we do? I calmed him down. He thinks that my blood is medicine or whatever. But she doesn't do that. He says, promise me you will stay awake with me all night. And she says, I promise. Of course she doesn't. She falls asleep in a chair. And he turns. She has to know, if she doesn't think her blood cures him, she has to know he's going to turn into a zombie, infected mutant. She has to know that. And so her sitting in a room with him all night, waiting for him to turn when he's not, I don't know, tied to the radiator or something, shows a complete lack of self-preservation on her part, and I don't think that makes sense. But I know, because I've already seen that, the clip from next week's episode where she tries to explain to Joel how she thought it was going to work. It just makes her very naive. And I've never thought of Ellie as naive before. Doesn't mean she can't be. Doesn't mean she can't be. I've just never thought of her that way before, and it's taking me a bit to process it. None of that ultimately matters, because we get the same ending. Ellie is surprised to find that Sam has turned. Sam leaps at her. Runs at her. Knocks her into the other room where Joel and Henry are still sleeping, and they wake up. Henry is able to get the gun, the one gun with any bullets in it, faster than Joel. Fires the gun at his feet to stop him from intervening, and then almost as if reflex, almost as if by reflex, he shoots Sam. And this is where I lost it. Like, I lost it playing that part in the game. I knew exactly what was coming, and I couldn't. Lamar Johnson, who plays Henry, was just so great in this whole episode, but also especially in this scene. I just kept saying, Henry, no. I just kept saying, Henry, no. And, but the only thing he had left in this world to do was to take care of Sam. And he couldn't do it. Yeah, he's got nothing else left to live for. So, there you go. Brent informing us that the kid who plays Sam has never acted before. There's not, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of acting opportunities for actually deaf 8-year-old black boys. It's just a fact. There was an actor last year who won an Oscar who was actually deaf, who won the Best Supporting Actor. I think that's awesome. I I don't think we should ever hire someone who's not deaf to play a deaf character ever again. There's no reason for that. For Coda, that's right. So, yes, it's Justin Lopez for Coda. Um, yeah, Brent. He's asking for the gun because he knows Henry's going to shoot himself. He knows that. That's why Joel's asking for the gun. Yeah. Um, now Lamar Johnson was. So this is the thing: is that you got all these people who are in one episode who are, or one or two episodes who are just killing it. Melanie Linsky was so great in these two episodes. So great. And Lamar Johnson as Henry was just so so sad. Oh, it's so sad. Um, and a little thing that we never got to see from the game because again, the game just takes you right from Henry ending himself after having to shoot his own brother. Um, they just drop you right into Wyoming in the game. And so I like that they um, have given us that moment afterwards. We show Joel burying them, and Ellie leaves the carbon paper that just says "I'm sorry." She's sorry, and I don't know if she's sorry. And this is just me trying to figure this out because again, people are in the comments saying that like she doesn't have medical knowledge, and I'm like, yes, I agree. But doesn't she have the knowledge that she doesn't have medical knowledge? That's the thing for me. So I don't think she's apologizing that her blood couldn't cure him. And maybe we'll find out in this next episode that is what she's apologizing for. I wonder if she's apologizing because she promised to stay awake and she couldn't. And maybe because you don't turn all at once. It's not like I'm fine, now I'm a zombie. It's you turn over the course of several hours. So she fell asleep in the chair. And had she been awake, she would have been able to see that he was turning. You start twitching. You start not being able to move normally. So because she fell asleep, she wasn't able to be there for him while he was losing it, which again we may see is a mirror image for what happens in her Left Behind saga with Riley. We're getting that whole episode that shows her how she got bit and how she lost her best friend and first love. And I think that there's something there that she has never been able to be there for somebody after they got bit. She's not been able to do what she's supposed to do. Not been able to keep promises. And she's pissed at herself. Yeah, it's really tough. I think the way that it's going to work, because people are talking about how much they have left to cover in this particular season, because they're doing all of Last of Us part one is all um, of season one. So next next week is episode 6. Um, episode 6 is going to be them finding Tommy in Wyoming, and you can tell by the little preview that they showed. It doesn't happen at the dam. The dam is not a place where they go to in this. They're going to the settlement in Wyoming, the settlement from Last of Us Part 2. They're going there. That's where they're going to meet Tommy. They're going to have the reunion between Joel and Tommy. Tommy is going to send them to the University of Eastern Colorado, Northern Colorado, something like that, whatever it is. They go in the game. It'll probably be a different university in the show. They're gonna go there looking for the Fireflies. They're gonna show up. They're gonna find the Fireflies are not there, but somebody is there, and then that's when Joel. I don't know what they're gonna do in the show, but in the game, Joel falls off a balcony and gets a thing of rebar stabbed through his back out his front. And they're able to escape from their attackers, but Joel passes out from blood loss. And that is where they're going to end episode 6. And then Left Behind is episode 7. It's going to be Left Behind is going to be all of Ellie's story. Also, Ellie going hunting, trying to find food, trying to get away, trying to get out for Joel, where she meets David. Episode 8 is probably going to be Joel rescuing her from David. Episode 9 is going to be getting to Salt Lake City and what happens there. As I don't know. I don't know if it. Brent, they've said that the episode that Last of Us Part 2 is going to be Last of Us Season 2, so I don't really know. I don't really know what they're going to do in the meantime. It feels like this is a big enough hit that they should this is a big enough hit as a show that they'll probably try and maybe extend Season 2 so that maybe they do parts of Season 2, parts of Last of Us Part 2, the game, in Season 2, and the rest of Last of Us Part 2 in Season 3. That's what I think of. Well, I think, Brent, they'd lose Pedro to the people who know Last of Us Part 2, the video game, but the people who don't know Last of Us Part 2, the video game, which you have to remember is the majority of people watching the show, they would just be as shocked as we were from the Last of Us Part 2 video game. I often wonder, Brent, if they're going to do what they did in the game, which is to have all the 5 years in between flashbacks that are in the game Last of Us Part 2, if they're going to do those interspersed throughout the story. So you can film all of that with Pedro and then intersperse them. I'm not really sure exactly. All I know is that this episode was phenomenal, and I can't wait for next week. Thank you all for being here. This has been a lot of fun. This is going to be a lot of hard stuff to go through the next few episodes, but I'm looking forward to it. Oddly enough. So, I'm not sure. Probably tomorrow night I'll stream some more Red Dead. for those of you who enjoy watching me do that as well. And then I will we'll be back to this next week, same time as normal. I believe we're back to Sundays for the next episode. Until then, I will tell you what I tell you at the end of every episode: endure and survive. Thank you all. R.I.P. Henry and Sam. Love you.